With the 3-year anniversary of the January 6th insurrection upon us, our hosts and their guests take stock of where we are after the biggest threat to our democracy in modern history. We'll discuss Trump's escalating rhetoric, complete with threats of vengeance and dictatorship, and how his party, with a few notable exceptions, either has collective amnesia or worse, indifference.
January 6th, it's coming up, the 3-year anniversary. And I'm still waiting for justice or a pound of flesh, but, let's call it justice.
I like justice.
Republicans, the MAGA sort, for a while, some sort of saw the light, could see it was a bad thing, sort of a violent insurrection, but since then, kind of toned it down in their
minds. The initial reaction. Remember, like Lindsey Graham and Congressman from Green Bay here, right? I mean, Gallagher. The reaction. I think that's what you really need to look at. What was the initial reaction? Well, people were mortified, man. Donald Trump called the crowd. He incited the crowd. We'll be wild. You better fight like hell. You're not going to have a country anymore. And he set them loose on the Capitol in order to what? Try to stop the peaceful transfer of power, which he did for a few hours.
Dominic, over at the Washington Post today, 3 years after the January 6th attack, Republicans are more sympathetic to those who stormed the U.S. Capitol.
Come on!
And more likely to absolve Donald Trump of responsibility for the attack than they were in 2021, according to a new Washington Post University of Maryland poll. Republicans are showing increased loyalty to the former president as he campaigns for re-election and fights criminal charges over his attempt to stay in power after losing in 2020. They are now less likely to believe that January 6 participants were mostly violent, less likely to believe Trump bears responsibility for the attack, and are slightly less likely to view Joe Biden's election as legitimate than they were in December of 2021. Dom. In follow-up interviews, some said their views have changed because they now believe the riot was instigated by law enforcement to suppress political dissent.
Wait.
Instigated by law enforcement,
okay,
to suppress political dissent. Or maybe John Nichols from The Nation, because he was accused in a Trump filing, right?
It was a setup, man. I was set up. That's what they're saying. It was the setup. But if that would be the case, Curdy, again, everyone that's been convicted, they're all Trumpsters, right?
Don't let the facts get in the way, Dan.
Okay. Please continue.
As it's described here, a baseless conspiracy theory that has been promoted heavily in right-wing media and by Trump in his speeches and in his legal fight against the 4-count federal indictment he faces in D.C. Michael Hanner, director of the Center for Democracy and Civic Engagement, says this: from a historical perspective, these results would be chilling to many analysts.
Yeah.
But Republican views are more fractured than those of Democrats. Here's where I'm going to take a little optimism, Dom. You got to read between the lines, but I want to be optimistic. But Republican views are more fractured than those of Democrats, who remain largely in agreement the riot was a violent threat to democracy for which Trump bears responsibility. In the current context of hyper-partisanship, there seems to be some divisions amongst Republicans. Again, according to Hanner, independents, according to the poll, mostly side with Democrats. There's your silver lining, folks. I don't care what the MAGA crazy believe. I don't care how supportive of Donald Trump they are. In fact, I read alternative articles at the Washington Post today, Don, and they're conjecturing over when was it that Donald Trump really won the primary? Because he's about to sweep the Republican primary. Well, some a little along the sides, little procedural stuff that Trump's team's been doing. Believe it or not, they've run a smart campaign in terms of procedure. But when he really ran and won was when the indictment started coming. Right? When the indictment started coming, even his opponents in the primary fields said, oh, poor Trumpy, poor Cheeto Messiah. And this won over the MAGA base, Tom.